Max Fried looked more like himself on Wednesday night, but unfortunately, the Atlanta Braves offense looked more like itself, or at least the 2024 version of itself, in a tough 3-2 loss to the Philadelphia Phillies. We'll also take a look at the postseason races happening around Major League Baseball, including the NL wildcard race, and it looks like that final spot could come down to the Braves and the Mets, and it's way too close for comfort. We'll discuss all that on today's episode of Locked On Braves, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at ShortstopOfAll. Check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves. Get ready to submit your questions to LockedOn_Braves on X for Friday's mailbag episode. If you're new and watching on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. And if you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button as well. It does help the show a ton. When you do that, I promise you it's how others find us here at Locked On Braves. And if you're listening on the audio version, leave me a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. I do really appreciate it. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, leave me a comment in the comment section below. Let me know if you're an everydayer of the podcast or if you make us your first listen of the day. I really appreciate all the support there and you continuing to let me know that. On today's episode, we'll take a look at Wednesday's 3-2 loss. Max Fried, his good performance, the offense just continues. What we talked about on yesterday's podcast is the struggles in clutch situations, struggles with runners in scoring position. It is something that has really held back this offense all year long, and it cost them a chance at a win on Wednesday night. We'll look at all that, and then we'll take a look around the league as well. The division standings, the wild card standings, as the postseason picture is kind of taking shape here for the last month and a half. We'll talk about the league leaders and who are the front runners to win MVP and Cy Young the rest of the way, and then we'll get you set for Thursday's game against the Phillies. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. The Braves lose to the Phillies 3-2 on Wednesday night, and it's just another one of those games, quite honestly, that you feel like the Braves let get away from them. There's been so many of those games this year where the Braves pitched well. They played great defense. They had more hits than the other team. They had more base runners. They had more opportunities, and they still found a way to lose. It's been kind of the story of this season. There's just been so many games like this where they can't find a way to get it done to win some of these close games. And these are the games you're going to have to win this year. Talked about it a lot this week as well. This team, its success and its failure is going to be built around this pitching staff. But it's going to need a little bit of help from the offense. I mean, the pitching was good on Wednesday. Good enough. You hold the Phillies to 3 runs. It needs to be a win more often than not. And it was on Tuesday. It wasn't the case on Wednesday as they lose 3-2. And look, this was a tough battle. Again, these are the types of games I think the Braves are going to be in. They got to find ways to win these, but I also thought they showed a lot of fight in this one. They showed some fire. Obviously, we'll talk about the Orlando Arcia stare down situation, or whether I think that was good or indifferent, whatever. We'll discuss it here in a little bit, but I did think there was more fire from this team that we've seen than we've seen a lot this year. Let's start with the bad. Let's start with the offense. This is just the same frustrating offense we've seen all year. They have plenty of chances in this game, but can't get that big hit. You have 9 hits in the game. You out-hit the Phillies. You had 9 hits. You had 3 walks. Everyone reached base in this game except Michael Harris, who had an unfortunate 0-for-5 night. It wasn't even unfortunate. It was just a bad night for him, and he's been really good since coming back. But 0-for-6 with runners in scoring position. You hit into 1 double play. You got to hit into at least 1 double play a game. That's just a rule for the Braves right now. But you look at it with this Braves team, 9 hits, only one of them was an extra base hit, and it was a 2-run homer for Orlando Arcia. And this is the case for most teams. But for this Braves team, it seems like even more so. If you're not getting 3, 4 extra base hits in a game, they just really have no chance of scoring or scoring a lot of runs. Unless those extra base hits are going, over the wall when they get them, is luckily the case what happened on Wednesday night. The one extra base hit they had was a home run. They're just not a team that can walk and single you to death. They're a team, we talked about it all year long, it's built on the long ball. And they're doing that well. They're doing that much better than they did in the first half. But again, it's just the same conversation. And I hate to continue to beat a dead horse here, but got to be able to score in different ways. You have to be able to manufacture runs. And I don't know if it's the inability of this offense. I don't know if it's the unwillingness of this offense to adjust. There's a month and a half left now. Like, it is what it is at this point. Yes, you've dealt with a lot of injuries. This team has to change its approach and change it quickly if they're going to have any type of success offensively. You cannot just sit back and wait on that home run to come. You have to be. You have 9 hits and 3 walks in a game, and your only runs come off a 2-run home run. That's bad. That's bad offense. That's bad baseball. It is. You have to be able to find ways to push another run across. And it's just, again, it's just been the same story all year long. And strikeouts weren't necessarily the issue in this one. You only had 7 strikeouts in this game. You could not find that clutch hit. 2 situations in this game in particular. The 6th inning for me, you get a leadoff single from Jarred Kelenic. One of the few guys in this lineup that has some speed and some ability to steal bases. He doesn't. Next batter grounds into a force out. Now you have RC at first base, who is not going to run. You know that's not going to happen. Then Laureano gets a single, but it's station to station. Or Arcia moves up to second base. So now it's first and second base. There's 1 out. You got Urshela up, a guy who can handle the bat, doesn't strike out a lot. He puts the ball in play, but of course it's a double play. And it's this situation where you get a leadoff runner in the 6th inning, the 6th batter in your lineup. You know what it looks like the rest of the way. And I know RC is the one that hit the home run tonight, but those guys at the bottom are not necessarily power guys that you're hoping are going to hit that home run for you. You have an opportunity there when you get the 6th hitter in your lineup on with what the rest of the bottom of your lineup looks, to try to make something happen. Try to force the issue to get a run across, but there's none of that. You know, there's no stolen base. There's no hit and run. Again, there's a month and a half left now. We've watched this for 2/3 of the season. Change it up. Try something. You get a leadoff single from your 6th hole hitter in the 6th inning. You got to find a way. I mean, it didn't even feel like they were close. You get 2 base runners on there, and it doesn't feel like the Braves are close, because when it's first and second, 1 out, you're thinking, oh, well, somebody's going to have to find a way to get a hit here, because you know they're not going to be able to manufacture things along. And it's just that same frustration all year long. And then in the 9th inning, the bottom of your order gets on for the top. It's exactly what you want, and you can't get it done. Obviously, Whit Merrifield having a good series. You would have loved to have Austin Riley hitting in that 2-hole there with the game on the line. But as it is, Michael Harris comes up. He hits a little nubber. Thought he was going to beat it out. And then Whit Merrifield comes up. He hits a soft ball to first base to end the game. And it's just, they cannot find these big hits. They cannot manufacture runs. And it's just the inability of this offense all year long to try to score in different ways. And their unwillingness to change the approach from the coaching staff and from the hitters. Just an unwillingness to try something. Have you seen a hit and run all year from this team? I don't think I have. If so, it's been very, very few times. And again, I understand when Whit Merrifield's on, which happened twice in this game. Whit Merrifield gets on, and you don't want him to run in front of Marcell Ozuna. I get that. When Ozuna's up, when Olson's up, when Murphy's up, you don't want to risk the chance of running into an out and one of those guys going deep and costing yourself a run. I get that to some degree. But this offense is just so limited that when you get those types of guys on, when Michael Harris gets on first, Whit Merrifield, Jarred Kelenic, even Laureano, I feel like you have to try to push it. You got to try something, because there was also a time in this game where Whit Merrifield did get on first base in front of Ozuna. He doesn't steal, Ozuna gets a hit, can't always imagine that things are going to play out the same way. But if you do run Whit Merrifield there and Ozuna ends up getting that hit, maybe it leads to another run. It's just, again, it's the same conversation that I've been having all year long. This offense is just one-dimensional. It is what it is, and it's one-dimensional in a lesser capacity because you're missing Ronald Acuna Jr., you're missing Ozzie Albies, you're missing Austin Riley. It's Ozuna, Olsen, and Murphy. I mean, those are your home run guys now that you're looking at as 3 spots in the lineup. This is not the same lineup as last year. And so you have to change your approach. But again, there's been an unwillingness from the coaching staff, I think, to change that approach. And I don't know if there's an inability there from the hitter standpoint. I would think not, but there is also too much strikeout, I think, in this lineup to really change that approach to try hit and run situations. But again, I do think you at least have a guy in Urshela now that can put the ball in play where you can try something like that. Again, especially at the bottom of the order. So again, I know I'm going on a rant and I've gone far too long than I intended, but it's just the same conversation we've had all year long where this offense is just so one-dimensional. You have a game where you pitch well, you play good defense, you out-hit your opponent, and you lose. It's so frustrating as a fan. All right, next, I want to get into Max Fried's good performance because he did look good on the mound, and then we'll take a look around the league at some of the postseason pitcher, especially the NL wild card race where things are too close with the New York Mets. We'll talk about that here next. For those of us who thrive on getting stuff done, including workouts, every minute counts. That's why you need Tonal, the smart strength training system that takes the guesswork out of working out so you can make sure you're making the most of every rep. When life gets busy, fitting in a workout can be stressful. With Tonal, you can get an efficient workout personalized just for you, and they're available with the amount of time that you have. Tonal is the world's smartest and most effective strength training system that helps you get stronger. Powered by AI, Tonal learns every rep so it can deliver workouts personalized just for you. It's like having a personal trainer at home right there with you. When you use Tonal, it'll optimize every workout just for you. It's like right now, Tonal is offering our listeners $200 off Tonal purchases with promo code LockedOnMLB. That's Tonal.com, TONAL.com, and use promo code LockedOnMLB for $200 off your purchase. That's Tonal.com, promo code LockedOnMLB for $20 off. Thank you for making Locked On Braves your first listen of the day. Make your second listen to Locked On MLB podcast with host Paul Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, where he will also be getting you set up for the postseason and everything happening around Major League Baseball. You can check that out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And speaking of every day, tomorrow we'll be back here at Locked On Braves with our weekly mailbag episode. Look for a post on X from LockedOn_Braves asking for those questions. Submit your questions there to be answered on Friday's live show that we'll probably do around midday on Friday. All right, let's look at the good from Wednesday night because Max Fried was good, and it was the start that we've been hoping for from Max Fried. 7 innings, 4 hits, just 1 walk, which was questionable, 2 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, and 91 pitches. Now, numbers look good. The line looks good, and it was a good start, and it was much better command from Max Fried. A bit unusual, though, in how he went about it. 93.4 mile per hour average exit velocity against. We are not used to seeing Max Fried give up that much hard contact, 11 hard hit balls, but 5 of them were ground outs. There were a couple of close calls on some flyouts, but 11 ground outs total in the game. He was doing a great job of getting Phillies hitters swinging over the top of his pitches and getting those ground balls. Only 7 whiffs on 45 swings, just a 24% CSW percentage. That's called strikes plus whiffs. So again, the box score looks good. 7 innings, just 2 earned. You look at the underlying metrics on this one, not the best outing for Max Fried, certainly not the most dominant outing, I guess you could say, but still, I thought overall the command looked much better in this one than it had in his previous 3 outings since coming back from that All-Star break where he had the injury. Not a great outing for Joe Jimenez, who was working in back-to-back games. And look, I said this on the postcast last night. you're at a point in the season, you're going to have to go to these guys on back-to-back nights quite often, especially if you're playing in a lot of these close games. You have to be able to trust that you can use Joe Jimenez on back-to-back nights. Now, could you have gone Pierce Johnson there? Sure, but I think Joe Jimenez has been one of your better relievers all year. I have no problems with Brian Snitker pulling that trigger in a close game like that. The problem was you left an 0-2 fastball right down the middle of the plate to their 7-hole hitter. Just can't make that mistake. You get ahead 0-2 with a couple of good sliders. I agree with the call for a fastball, but that has to be up above the zone. It can't be right down the middle. So just a mistaken location for Joe Jimenez there. He gave up 3 hard hits in that one as he gave up the fly ball to Bryson Stott that moved the runner to third, and then the fly ball to Brandon Marsh, who he almost struck out with a good slider on a 1-2 pitch. But then the next pitch had to come more into the zone, and Brandon Marsh was able to drive it to the warning track for the sac fly, where they were able to manufacture a run and get it across. Luke Jackson had a scoreless inning against the middle of their order. That was good to see. Got a big double play to get out of that. Some other key moments in this game. I already talked about that 6th inning, just the inability to find a way with the bottom of your order to try to manufacture something. There were a lot of bad calls in this game. It felt like a lot of them went against the Braves. I hadn't seen the umpire scorecard come out for this game yet, but I got to imagine it's not going to be a pretty one. I don't know that it necessarily cost the Braves in this one, but certainly was not one of the better zones that we've seen this year, and we've seen a lot of bad ones here. Seems like recently a lot. And then we got to talk about Orlando Arcia staring down Bryce Harper, which he did. I mean, he most certainly did. In my mind, it's whatever. I could do without it. Certainly could do without it. I don't mind that. I don't mind that attitude and that mentality of, hey, you're not going to intimidate us in that way. I don't know. Again, I don't really know how to feel about this. I feel like it was overblown to begin with from the media when it happened. I thought the Braves handled it poorly when it happened. They tried to shy away from it instead of just owning it and owning up to it. I really just kind of wish it would go away, to be honest. But, you know, it is what it is. I mean, it's good to see, I guess, the Braves and Arcia showing a little fight, a little fire against their division rival. I mean, I think that's fun for the fans to have kind of this stare down rivalry thing. But I'll say this, if the rivalry is every time Arcia or Harper hits a home run now that one of them's going to stare down the other, I feel like that's going to end poorly for the Braves, because Bryce Harper is going to hit a lot more home runs against the Braves and probably a lot more than Orlando Arcia is going to hit against the Phillies. But again, it's whatever for me. I don't really care either way. It doesn't do much for me, but that did happen. It was a thing, and we'll see if it continues. All right, let's take a look around the league now. We'll start with the division standings. In the AL East, the Yankees and Orioles are deadlocked at the top of that division. That's going to be a fun race down the stretch. I hope they have several more games left against each other. That'll be a fun series to watch. The Guardians are now only up 2.5 games on the Royals and the Twins in the AL Central. That's becoming a really fun race to watch. The Astros are suddenly up 4.5 games over the Mariners in the AL West. They suddenly have the biggest lead in the American League after the slow start to the season that they had. And looking at the AL wildcard picture right now, it's the Orioles, Royals, and Twins all currently in those wildcard spots. And the Red Sox are the only other team that is close at 3.5 games back. So unless something drastic happens there, it looks like the teams, at least in the postseason for the American League, I don't want to say they're set. There's still, a month and a half left. The Red Sox could certainly make something happen there, but they all got to be feeling pretty comfortable at the moment. Teams feeling comfortable in the National League, certainly the Phillies up 7 games on the Braves now. The Brewers up an 11.5 games in the NL Central. They've been going on a run. Obviously, the Braves felt the beginning of that run when they got swept by the Brewers at home, and that has continued, and the rest of the National League Central not doing great either, but the Brewers have the biggest lead in all of baseball. The Dodgers are up 3.5 on the Diamondbacks and the Padres. The Diamondbacks and Padres, I don't want to say ran away with it, but they've created some distance between them and the Braves and the Mets in the NL wild card, and it's looking like that last spot for the wild card right now appears to be a battle between the Braves and the Mets. Braves holding just a 1.5 game lead over the Mets. The Giants also kind of lurking there. But at the moment, at least, it looks like that final postseason spot in the National League could come down to the Braves and the Mets. And they have a series, I think the second to last series of the year, those two teams play. So again, could be a tight battle there between those two division rivals, not for the division this time, but for the last postseason spot. Now let's take a look at some of the leaders around Major League Baseball. OPS leaders, Judge is at the top at 1187, just unreal. Soto 1045, Bobby Witt Jr. 1021, Ohtani 989, and Ozuna hanging in there at 975. Home runs, Judge at 47, then Ohtani 39, Ozuna 37, trying to track him down. Santander 37, and Juan Soto 36. Batting average leaders, Bobby Witt Jr. 352. I watch a lot of Royals games. That team is just really fun. Bobby Witt Jr. is my favorite player to watch right now with Ronald out. And I'll tell you, it is a drastic difference between watching the Braves offense and watching the Royals offense. You probably don't know more than one or two players in that Royals lineup, but they know how to manufacture some runs, and it's night and day watching those two teams. But Bobby Witt Jr., just every game I watch, he's getting at least 2 hits, and that's why he's batting 352. Aaron Judge at 334. Vlad Jr., I feel like he's kind of gone under the radar this year because that Blue Jays team is down. He's batting 318 this year. Steven Kwan, 311, and Marcell Ozuna, 309. Ozuna is the only National League hitter in the top 7, and he and Luis Arraez are the only 2 in the top 10. So is the pitching that much better in the National League, or is the hitting that much better in the American League? Because you look at the offensive numbers and for all of baseball, and there is a lot of American League players at the top of that list. Now, stolen bases, Elly De La Cruz at the top, leading everybody by a wide margin with 60. Ohtani has 38. He's about to become the fastest player to 40-40, and we're about to have back-to-back years where somebody has a 40-40 season. Bryce Terang has 37. Jose Caballero for the Rays, 35. And Jared Durant and David Hamilton, both of the Red Sox, had 32. More on Jared Durant here in a minute. Looking at the AL MVP odds, according to FanDuel, Judge is a huge favorite at minus 1450. Bobby Witt Jr. next at plus 600, and then Juan Soto at plus 3,500. In the NL, it is Ohtani leading by a wide margin at minus 3,500, and then Ozuna is actually next at plus 1,600, and then Lindor at plus 2,000. I get it from Braves fans. Look, I said it the other day. I don't think there's any player that has been more valuable to their team than Marcell Ozuna. This offense and this team would be nowhere without the contributions of Marcell Ozuna. I get why Ohtani is going to win this award. It's crazy, too. We're talking about 2 DHs, which in my mind, look, I feel like you need to play the field a little bit, but those 2 guys have just been so great. I mean, Ozuna's trying for a triple crown. I understand why they are up there in the MVP odds, but Ohtani, what he does on with the stolen bases gives him a huge advantage there. And it's Ohtani. It is what it is. On the pitching side of things, ERA leaders, Tarek Skubal, 2.49. Then our Chris Sale at 2.62. Zach Wheeler, 2.73. Hunter Green, 2.83. Logan Gilbert, 2.93. Whip leaders, Gilbert, 0.87. It's just ridiculous. Skubal, 0.93. Glasnow, 0.95. More on him in a minute. Zach Wheeler, 0.98. Joe Ryan and Bailey Ober at 0.99. Chris Sale at 1.00. Strikeouts, Chris Sale leads all of baseball at 187, and then Dylan Cease, 186, Skubal, 185, Cole Reagans, 183, and Garrett Crochet, 180. AL Cy Young odds, Tarek Skubal at minus 1,900. I feel like he's feeling like the runaway favorite at the moment. Corbin Burns at plus 950, Logan Gilbert at plus 3,100. NL Cy Young odds, Chris Sale at minus 450, Zach Wheeler at plus 300. That's the tightest race of this group, if I know how to read odds right, and that is debatable. But I think that could be an interesting battle to watch here the rest of the way, too, is Chris Sale versus Zach Wheeler. And then Hunter Green and Paul Skeens both at plus 5,000. Could the Pirates shut down Paul Skeens? That is one of the stories going around baseball at the moment, including of stories around baseball. Freddie Freeman playing through a hairline fracture in his right middle finger. No surprise there. If you're familiar with Freddie Freeman as a Braves fan, and I know you are, he's going to play through that. Tyler Glasnow on the IL for the Dodgers. The Dodgers had to deal with a lot of injuries this year as well. We talked about the Braves, all the injuries they'd had to deal with, mainly on the hitting side. For the Dodgers, it's been on the pitching side of things. Yamamoto, Glasnow, on down the list. They've had a ton of injuries on the pitching side. Jaron Duran was suspended 2 games last week for uttering an anti-gay slur at a fan. Don't do that. New top 100 prospects list. Probably could have talked about this on Minors Monday, but mention it now. ESPN had 3 Braves players in their top 100, including Drake Baldwin at 44. That seems aggressive to me. Nacho at 78 and Waldrop at 98. MLB Pipeline, no Braves players in the top 100. So Again, a little bit of difference there. Obviously, national rankings are very, very subjective. We talk about it on Miners Monday all the time. I love this Braves system. I think it's in a very good place, and we'll discuss it more on Monday's episode. All right, next we'll preview Thursday's game between the Braves and the Phillies. Christopher Sanchez versus Spencer Schwellenbach. Look, as tough as Wednesday's game was for the Braves, you got to just win series. Don't worry about the division. Win series, and they got a chance to do that on Thursday, and I'll tell you whether or not it's going to happen here next. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades at SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free TradeMaster program. Every TradeMaster gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event, and you don't when you use Game Time. I tell you about Game Time all the time because it's the only ticket purchasing app that I use, whether it's for sports, comedy, theater, whatever is happening in your area. Just open up your Game Time app. A couple of features that I just absolutely love is that, one, you get a view from your seat, especially if you're going to some older ballparks like Fenway and Wrigley. I've been there before. I've made the mistake before. Don't get an obstructed view, and you can see the view from your seat right there in the app. And the other thing I love, you get all-in pricing up front. You know what you're going to be paying before you get to that checkout screen. You also get the Game Time guarantee, which means if you find tickets in the same section in a row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. They also have exclusive flash sales, and they have prices on their tickets going down right up to the start of Game Time and sometimes even after. So make sure that you download the Game Time app today. Also, when you use the code LOCKEDONMLB, you're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Again, download the Game Time app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Lowest tickets, last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, on Thursday, it'll be Christopher Sanchez versus Spencer Schwellenbach as the Braves look to win the series over the Philadelphia Phillies. And look, that is the goal for this Braves team. That is the goal, is to win the series the rest of the way. I don't care about the division. I'm not going to say I don't care about it, but if it happens, great. But I think more so for this Braves team down the stretch, I just need to see them winning series. I need to see them playing consistent baseball. I need to see them get on a good stretch. I've been asking for it for so long now. Give me a 2-week stretch of you just playing consistently good baseball. And look, Wednesday was a loss, but I still thought they showed some good fight in that one. There was a lot of more good than bad out of that game. And you continue to do that. I think the Braves are going to win a lot of games down the stretch here. But on Thursday, it is Sanchez versus Schwellenbach. As for Sanchez, he's been having a breakout year for him before struggling badly in July. 2 starts ago, he gave up 7 earned on 12 hits and 4 2/3 innings against the Diamondbacks. But in his last start, which was against the Nationals, he pitched a complete game. So don't know what version of Christopher Sanchez you're going to get in this one. Now, one thing we know about him, doesn't strike out a lot of batters, which could be good for the Braves. 18.6% strikeout rate this year. He also doesn't walk anybody, and that's fine because the Braves don't walk anyway. Through the first 3 months of the season, though, he only allowed 1 home run, and he has a near 60% ground ball rate. So that does worry me for this Braves team that is so reliant on the home run ball. And look, he's given up more in the second half as baseballs have started to travel more. But a 60% ground ball rate, this is the game. I am just telling you, this is the game. You're facing a sinker baller, a ground ball pitcher. If you got a runner on first who can run, send them. Because more likely, whoever's at the plate is probably going to hit a ground ball, and it's probably going to be a double play. Be aggressive on the base passes on this one. If you get Michael Harris, Witt, Jarrett on, be aggressive in sending them in this game, please. You got a guy on the mound who has a 60% ground ball rate. I don't want to see a bunch of double plays As for Spencer Schwellenbach, he faced the Phillies back in July, allowed just 1 run over 6 innings. He's been racking up the strikeouts lately, 8, 7, 10, 11, and 8 strikeouts in his last 5 starts. So that is certainly good. Hopefully he has another good game against the Phillies. A little bit of news from the day. AJ Minter had his left hip surgery. He's officially done for the year. We kind of assumed that when they moved him to the 60-day IL on Tuesday. Travis d'Arnaud is feeling better, could catch if needed. We'll see if he's in the lineup on Thursday, but it sounds like he could be back soon. Also, Jorge Soler pinch hit again on Wednesday. He could be making a return this weekend, which would be great for this Braves offense. Couple of comments here from those live. Carlos Paulino, first listener here, live every time that I can. Thank you so much for joining. Michael Singleton with Max Fried, pitch count at 90. Why not bring him out to pitch the first few batters? I think you could. Also, again, I have no problem going to Joe Jimenez there. He just has to be better. And I know it's back-to-back nights. So, again, I think Max had a good start. You brought him back out for the 7th after, that struggle of a 6th inning. So I felt like that was the right call. Yuki Matsui, why does the Phillies 3-game series feel like Custard's last stand? I don't know what that means. Either way, I don't care. I'm not going to say I don't care. I want them to obviously beat the Phillies. I would love for them to make a run at the division. More so, I just need to see this Braves team playing well. Trip Ray says, Gio Urshela balled out last night. He certainly was great defensively, had a couple of hits as well. Again, I think that's a good pickup and a good risk worth taking. He's not going to be Austin Riley, but I think he can do some good things. Austin Pruitt says, when did we think we would be competing with the Mets for a playoff spot? I did not think that would happen this year, more so because I thought the Braves obviously would be running away and the Mets having a bad season, but it's 2024. Here we are. That will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Make sure you make your second listen to Locked On MLB podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. Tomorrow we'll have our live mailbag episodes, so be ready to submit your questions for that. The Braves and Phillies play at 7:08, moving it up a little bit on Thursday night. It'll be Christopher Sanchez versus Spencer Schwellenbach. Catch every pitch of the Braves hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Braves. And again, make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast. And we will talk to you next time.